All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. I hope everybody had a great holiday period and a great New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. Some of the news that's been coming in, non-MBA related, have not been very positive, but I hope everyone is still geared up with MBA applications. A lot of round two deadlines are due this week, and next week. So I wanted to just come by and quickly do a gut check on some of the things that we should be careful of before we hit that submit button. Just wanted to let you know we do these videos every week, and sometimes it's me. I'm Shovik. I'm a MBA second year student at the Michigan Ross School of Business. I have done a few videos in the last few weeks. Feel free to go check them out on this channel. But also we do GMAT and MBA videos every thrice a week, and there's a lot of good content out here. So feel free to subscribe, like the video, put a comment, and we'll appreciate it. So today we're going to take a little bit of time to just walk through a few things that I think everybody should be careful of before they hit that submit button, and 5 key things to be really specific. So let's jump into it, right? So the first thing that I want you to check that you have done before you hit the submit button, and in sense of a timeline, I'm thinking of 24 hours before you hit submit. If it's earlier, it's even better, but at least 24 hours. I want to check. I want you to check whether you have written the right school name. And this may seem trivial, but I've seen this happen numerous times where you have written, "Oh yeah, I love talking to people from Yale School of Management, and that's why I want to go to Fuqua." This happens especially when you're applying to many different schools and you are repurposing some of the same content in the school essays, which is, by the way, you totally should. There's nothing wrong in that. However, make sure that you're not doing something like this. This is the easiest way to really get your admissions from your school miffed and a little bit frown on you. This may not be an instant rejection, to be honest, because at GMAT Club, we have seen, believe it or not, we have seen people getting admitted to schools who admitted to have written a different school name on their application, and they found out after the fact. So may not be a deal breaker, but think about that. Think about business school as like a dating situation. You're on a date with someone, and you call this person him or her by someone else. So it's not going to go well. So definitely check that. The second thing that I want you to check is whether you're truly answering the question. And this is a lot more common than you think. This happens especially with international applicants who are not very used to the American way of writing essays. What I mean by this is something like this. If a school asks you, "Hey, what are your short and long-term goals? Tell us in 500 words," right? So, and if they give you 500 words, that means they are giving you a lot of room to actually not only go about your short and long-term goals, but also talk to them about your motivations for them. So you're not going to go, right, "Oh, I want to be a consultant in MBB," or "I want to be a product manager in um, Google and Microsoft." You're also going to tell them a backstory as to why this career goal, why not anything else. And often what ends up happening is because you have this room, people often use that liberty to take that backstory up front. So by the time you actually mention your goals, it's almost a third paragraph. Do not do this. Ideally, in my opinion, ideally, you should be answering the question in the first paragraph. Your reader shouldn't have to read the whole story to know what you want to do, right? So make sure to check that. So it can go something like, uh, so To take my example, I applied with a goal to join as a product manager in an ed tech company. So I talked a little bit, like one sentence, about how I saw a great potential and opportunity to use tech in low income and middle income classrooms. As in my time working as a school leadership strategy consultant and also a full-time middle school teacher. And then I immediately jumped to this has inspired me to join a flourishing or a fledgling ed tech company like Coursera or Udemy or Khan Academy as a product manager after business school. So I did not waste a lot of time, and a lot of people do this. So make sure you're careful. You're answering the question. And here's one way of sanity checking whether you're answering the question. If you have been in your essay mode for the last few weeks and months, you may not be the best person to judge whether you're answering the question. And answering the question could be a lot more nuanced than what your goals are. It could be something like, tell us about a time when you experienced a failure. Tell us about your biggest accomplishment. All of those things, often what ends up happening is our prose and our writing doesn't necessarily translate into very legible and comprehensible piece of writing. So here's my hack to see if you're really answering the question. Give your essay response to someone who has not known your work very closely, who doesn't know your work but still a friend. That's why I call this person an objective friend. Um, Give them your response, but don't give them the essay question. And then once he or she has done reading, ask him or her, hey, what kind of question? What question do you think I'm answering here? And see what their best guess compares to what the actual question is. This is a sure shot litmus testy way of checking whether you're answering the question. So I would encourage you to try it with a few people around. Try your friends, maybe try your coworkers, and see if you're really answering the question to a stranger. The third thing is checking if you have typos. And I don't recommend spelling and grammar check in Microsoft Word. They are okay for very basic grammar and spelling edits. However, they are not okay if you are doing edits very, very thoroughly. For example, if you have made a typo calling cute instead of cut, Microsoft Word is not going to be able to solve that for you. So some people use Grammarly, but I would try to be manual here. I would manually go through every single word of your essay. And sometimes we get blinded because if we have spent a lot of time with the essays, we don't often have the eye anymore to check typos because we have lost that freshness. So I would also then again encourage you to go to your objective friends, people who haven't read your essays, with the sole purpose of, hey, can you check if my spelling and grammar is okay? And see what they think. And also, not just spelling and grammar, think of sentences, think of how you frame sentences. Are you using a lot of passive voice? Are you using run on sentences? So check for sentence structure, modifiers, all the things that made you do well on your GMAT. Check for all of that stuff. Now, finally, your GMAT and GRE scores. Different schools have different timelines for this, right? So make sure you send your scores when they're due. And some schools would recommend and mandate that you send your GMAT score by the application deadline. And some schools are a little bit more flexible. So make sure you know your school's procedure, make sure you know your school's timeline, and send your GMAT or GRE scores appropriately. A quick caveat here: if you're planning to reapply for your GMAT and retake your GMAT after your application, make sure you know the procedure as well. Some schools will let you send an updated score after you have submitted your application, and some school will not. So make sure your retake attempt at the GMAT is not in vain, right? So check with your school that, hey, look, I'm submitting my application, but I feel I can get a higher score on my GMAT. So can I send you an updated score within 2 weeks of applying and see how they respond? And look, admission officers are pretty open to discussing things like this as long as you're not bothering them during application deadlines. That's when they would not like to respond to you because they're very busy processing a lot of these applications that come in thousands. So, but I said there were 5 things, and I only discussed 4. Well, technically, the 5th thing is not before you submit, but right after. Make sure you thank the people who helped you along the process. Regardless of your outcome, I am pretty sure you talked to a bunch of current students, alums, admission teams, and a lot of coworkers who put up with you, your recommender, who set up so much time to recommend you really well, drop those things in like all the schools that you're applying to. Make sure you take the time to thank them. And this is super important, not only because, well, this makes you a nice person, right? So, and you should try to be, should have basic decency to thank people for their time, which I'm sure you may not have while you're going through this dizzying MBA process. However, it also has some added benefit, especially for your alums and current students and admission teams. It makes them feel that you're an appreciative person. It also helps them remember your name. So if you have spoken to admissions, current students, alums, dropping a thank you note, maybe like a day or two after submitting your application, will be a reminder that, hey, by the way, remember we spoke about applications? I just dropped my application. I'm hoping for the best. Thank you so much for your help. And if I have any questions along the process, is it okay that if I reach out again? Or you don't have to say that. Just mention that you're thankful and grateful. So that's pretty much all the 5 things that I had for today. So I would be very happy to stick around for a few more minutes for some questions around round 2 admissions and round 2 application. Might take a few non-round 2 questions too. So I'm going to stick around for 5 more minutes just because I have the time. If you have questions, feel free to send them in. By the way, we are doing a lot of MBA application stuff over at GMAT Club forums. One of my favorite forum is the Admitted Student Thread, which is people who have gotten into multiple schools and they are trying to decide whether which school they should go to. So I would encourage you to check it out. It's all over at the GMAT Club MBA section, and go to the Admitted Student section. And if you haven't really heard back because you're applying in round 2, that forum also acts as a really good inspiration for applying to business schools. So I would strongly encourage that you go there. And I guess we are pretty much out of time here. So I'm going to take your leave, but I'm going to come back again next week, and we are going to do some quick interview guidelines and a few interview prep questions. And I might have my Michigan Ross friend Sam join the video with me. So if you have interview questions, feel free to tune in. We will most likely do another video on Monday or Tuesday. So thank you again. I hope your MBA applications go really well. Feel free to watch the video again. They will always be there on YouTube. And come to GMAT Club and say hi, and we will be around after your application is done, so that we can all relive the anxiety of getting a call all together on the forum. Thanks again. I hope you have a great day.